All right, so we have our last section for doctrine, our last little talk for doctrine, where we're going to talk about cosmology and soteriology. So remember cosmology from our dimensions of religion. Cosmology is how we access truth in the world. So our theology was where our source of truth was in the world, right? And we said for Hinduism, we're not defining it as a specific theism, but I want you to be able to understand how people could think that multiple theisms are correct about Hinduism, right? How could someone claim it's monotheistic or polytheistic or henotheistic, etc.? And for cosmology, we're looking at where we access that truth in the world. And for Hinduism, ultimately, that truth is found inside of ourselves. So the world, the world itself is divine because it is an emanation of Brahman. Remember, the world itself is God. The world is divine. There is nothing in this world that is outside of Brahman. But ultimately, how I come to understand that is within myself. Because within me, remember, is my Atman, my personal soul. And that Atman is my divine spark. It's my little piece of God within me. And the goal in Hinduism, right, is to realize not just that I have an Atman, not just that I have a personal soul, but that soul, that Atman, whatever it's made of, the divinity that it's made of, is the same thing as Brahman. So that actually I already have this connection to Brahman. I'm already part Brahman. I already am divine. Therefore, God is my true home, right? Living in samsara, living in this cycle of suffering, death, and rebirth is not the right place for me because really I belong back with God, right? The presence of my soul reminds me that this is not my true home. God is my true home. So I want to be reunited with Brahman, right? I want to be with Brahman, which is what achieving moksha is. So really, we have to look inside of ourselves to find that truth. So we can look to the world to understand that it's Brahman. We can look to the individual gods and goddesses to see that they are also part of Brahman. But really, that final and key ingredient for understanding Brahman is that I have to understand that I have a bit of Brahman within me, right? That my soul is divine, that I have a piece of the divine within me. So ultimately, I want to look inside of myself to find that truth and to achieve moksha. Then the last thing we're going to talk about for doctrine is soteriology. And if you remember from our section on the dimensions of religion, soteriology is basically a fancy word for salvation. So we're using it here to understand what is the main problem in religion, or in this particular religion, and how do we solve it. So for Hinduism, our main problem is desire. We as human beings, are living beings, we desire things. We are just filled with desire. We desire, love and money and success and friendship and nice things. And our desire is so deep-rooted within us that it goes down to sort of the basic level of desiring to remain here in this world, desiring to wake up in the morning when we go to sleep. But for Hinduism, remember, our desire is what keeps us trapped in samsara. So as long as we continue to desire that which is here, we will not achieve moksha, right? We will be doomed to be born again and again and again. We'll have to live multiple lifetimes in samsara. But we don't want to do that. We eventually want to get out. But actually going through the path and coming to the point where you no longer desire anything in this world, that is, of course, very difficult, right? It's very difficult to give up all desires for money, for pleasures, for success, for love, for friendship, all of these things, so that all you desire is beyond this world. So for desire, Hinduism understands there to be 4 stages of desire. There are 4 levels of desire that you go through as you journey through your lifetimes in samsara. And the idea is that it's kind of like a ladder. We're going to start with the bottom rung and work our way up. But as you go through each stage of desire, you have to go through it, and it gets you a little bit closer to getting out of samsara, getting out of this cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Excuse me. So the first level is kama, and kama is pleasure. Right? This is connected to, have you ever heard of the Kama Sutra? It's the same word. So kama means pleasure. This is the basest or lowest level of desire among living beings in samsara. And it just refers to the fact that we all want pleasure. We all want to feel good, and we all want to have fun. And there are some people that is their sole goal and their sole motivation in life, right? They just want to have a good time while they're here, right? I don't want to study. I don't want to go to college. I don't want to do those things. I see those things as a waste of time, because why would I spend my time doing that when I could just have fun? Right? I just want to hang out with my friends. I want to party. I want to, travel. I just want to have a good time. There's nothing really more that I want than that. And that's fine. So each of these levels of desire are fine. And this is because this is where you start. Everyone in Hinduism has to start here. You have to start at this lowest level of desire. So at one level, you just want to have a good time. You just want to have fun. You want to feel good, and you want pleasure. So the first level of desire is this kama. But Hinduism says eventually you'll realize that there's more to life than just pleasure. There's more to life than having fun. And that if that's your sole goal, your sole motivation or sole desire, you're missing out on a lot of things in life. And when you reach that point, you're ready to move on to the next level of desire, which is artha. And artha is like worldly success, let's say. Let's define it as success or worldly success. And this is when you start to realize that actually, if I defer my pleasure, if I can work hard and not just pursue fun and a good time every day, then there are even greater things than I can accomplish, right? For example, you guys are all students. You're all in college. You have reached the level of artha, right? Because you have realized, well, there's some things that I want in life that are gonna be good that I can only get if I defer my pleasure today, right? If I work hard, if I study, if I get up and do my reading and go to school, go to class, then that's going to help me achieve something even better in life, right? I don't want to just have fun every day. I want an education. I want a career. I want to have a good reputation. I want to be respected. I want to be successful. I want to make money, right? These are all of the reasons why people go to college, right? Why every day you make that decision. I could sleep in and watch TV, but no, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do my reading and do my studying, because even though it may not be, just pleasure right now, I know that if I stick to this goal and this plan, that ultimately I'm going to achieve better things in the future, right? So not just caring about, pleasure every day, having fun every day, but saying actually, if you work hard, you're going to achieve success in this world. And that's a better goal than just pleasure, right? So that's why artha is sort of one level above kama, right? Not just living each day for today, not just living each day to have a good time, but actually working hard and deferring that pleasure so that you can achieve success in this world. So that's the next level of desire. And again, there's nothing wrong with that desire, but it's still desire for the things of this world, right? Pleasure, success, these are things that are a part of samsara. They are what you can get here in this world. And eventually, even success, Hinduism says everyone will find that even success is not everything, right? That's not perfect happiness. You could be the most successful person, you could be the most wealthy person, you could have a family, you could have children, you could have all the things that this world defines as success, and something could still be missing, right? Something could still not be quite right. That ultimately, as human beings, we want more. We don't just want pleasure, we don't just want success in life. And that ultimately, we will move on to the third stage of desire, which is dharma. And dharma we can define as, and here we're going to define it as service, right? Sort of charity and service to others. So Kama and Artha, one thing that is common to both of them is that it is wanting things for yourself, right? I want pleasure for myself. I want success for myself. But finally, eventually, ultimately, we realize that living a life dedicated to ourselves, just serving ourselves, is not the most meaningful, right? That we are left, not having perfect happiness. We are left wanting more, feeling a little bit let down, because really the more joyful life is one where you are dedicated to others, right? You don't just do things for yourself, but you do things for others. So the next level of desire is a desire to help others and to serve others, right? So I want to reorient my life. So I'm sort of transitioning my desire. First, desire is just for me. Then desire is for others, right? I desire things for others. I want to help others. I want to help my family, my community, my nation, whatever it is. I want to dedicate my life to others. And that's a very noble goal, and that's a great level of desire to be at. It's, we're at the third stage here, so we're moving up that ladder. But surprisingly, Hinduism says that's not the final goal. That is not the final stage of desire where you can achieve perfect bliss and happiness. There are some religious traditions that say this is the best, right? This is the best type of life you can have. Hinduism says there is something beyond that. There is something beyond just a life of service to others. And that ultimately, even if you dedicate your entire life to other people, just serving others, caring for others, loving others, you will still want more. You will still be left a little bit let down, because human beings or living beings, we are destined for something greater. We are destined for something more. So once you have gone through these three stages of desire, right, you have lived maybe one lifetime or multiple lifetimes dedicated to pleasure, to seeking out and achieving pleasure. You've gone through Artha, you've been a success, you've achieved that worldly success, you've realized that it's not the most, it's not the most joyful thing. Then you've reoriented your life, you've dedicated your life to others, but that even then you will finally realize that even service to others is not the most satisfying. Then you are finally ready to come to the conclusion that actually nothing in this world fully satisfies you. Nothing in samsara can fully satisfy you, because everything here is finite. Right? Our joy is finite, our being is finite, and our knowledge is finite. And because we have an infinite soul, that's not what we're destined for. We are destined for the infinite. Our true identity is the infinite, so we belong with the infinite or in the infinite. And that is when an individual has reached the point when all they desire is moksha. So they have given up desire for anything in this world. Right? I have realized that pleasure will not satisfy me, success will not satisfy me, even service and love to others will not satisfy me. The only thing that will satisfy me is to get rid of these sort of finite restrictions on myself. And that just happens when you're in samsara, right? That actually I want infinite joy, I want infinite being, and I want infinite knowledge. And that's the only thing that can satisfy me. Because my soul, my true identity is already infinite, the only thing that will ultimately satisfy my desire is for the infinite. And so when you've reached that stage, then you live a life dedicated to spirituality, dedicated to God, in the hopes of finally achieving that lifetime where you get to die and not come back, right? You finally achieve moksha. So the 4 levels of desire here, as I said, it's seen as like a ladder, right? You start at Kama, work up to Artha, Dharma, and finally moksha. But the important thing to know, and one of the ways that Hinduism is this very tolerant and understanding religious tradition in a lot of ways, is because even though it is a hierarchy, right, we're moving up on this ladder of desire, none of these is wrong, right? Because all of them are necessary. The idea in Hinduism is that yes, every Atman is going to get there, every individual is going to achieve moksha, but there's no shortcuts in this world. You have to go through every single stage of desire. you have to go through kama, you have to go through artha, you have to go through dharma, and you have to really live those stages of desire, right? Because you're not going to find out that pleasure is ultimately unsatisfying until you've had a lot of pleasure. You're not going to find out that success is ultimately unsatisfying unless you've been very successful and we're still left wanting more, right? So you have to go through and live deeply through each one of these desires. So none of them is bad because you have to go through them. So there's an understanding that as we go through samsara, different individuals are at different stages of this path. And there's nothing wrong with the stage that they're in because everyone has to go through all of these stages. You cannot just skip through one. And it's important to note that it's not like, this is my kama lifetime and then this is my artha lifetime. Every lifetime is going to be a combination of these things. It's just which one is the main driver, the main motivation. And ultimately, you will go through each of these stages and reach a point where nothing in this world will satisfy you. You realize that only God, only the infinite will satisfy you. That's when you've reached the level of moksha and you're ready to dedicate your entire life, your entire desire to reunification with God, to going back to God. Okay, so that's all we have for doctrine. And then next week we're going to go through ritual ethics and society. Okay,